morning, Acadiana. It is Tuesday, March 30th, 2021, and you're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories important to our community and state, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find the print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer newsreaders. Today, we're joined by Robert Richard. Welcome to Local News Live, Robert.
Good morning, Matt. Glad to be here.
Well, we're so glad you're here. I know we have a lot of headlines, so I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street. Thanks again.
Good morning, everyone. Here's today's news. In the Acadiana section, vaccination rates are uneven in Lafayette Parish by Ben Myers, staff writer. As Louisiana opens COVID-19 vaccine eligibility to everyone over the age of 16, state data shows similar disparities in Lafayette Parish as seen elsewhere. The parish's highest vaccination rates are within its wealthiest, whitest neighborhoods, but those familiar do not show Lafayette's complete picture. Some areas with the lowest vaccination rates also fit that description. And on the other hand, some of the highest rates are in areas that are poorer and less white than the parish as a whole. The geographically large census tract covering the parish's unincorporated western reaches has the second lowest vaccine initiation rate among the 42 tracts. Yet, it is one of only a dozen tracts that is more than 80% white, and its poverty rate is below the parish-wide rate. The highest vaccination rates are in affluent, racially homogeneous neighborhoods. Along the Vermilion River, near Ochsner Lafayette General Medical Center, the largest vaccine provider in the greater Acadiana region, 3 contiguous census tracts in this area are the only ones with initiation rates above 30%. And they're also the 3 whitest, averaging above 90%. The hospital itself, meanwhile, is in a neighboring tract that is tied for the 6th lowest initiation rate at 12.8%. That tract includes the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, as well as the Freetown neighborhood, and has by far the highest rate of residents below the age of 25. Ranking in the top third in both poverty and vaccination is the tract running along Cameron Street to the north between University Avenue and Bertrand Drive. That tract is about 2/3 white, in line with the parish as a whole. One of the easternmost tracts between Surrey Street and Carmel Drive is among the 10 most vaccinated and among the 10 least white. Combined vaccination rates in the parish's 8 majority non-white tracts nearly match the parish rate, but 6 of those tracts rank in the bottom half for vaccination. The tract with the lowest poverty rate, which is along Ambassador Caffrey Parkway between Vero School Road and the Youngsville Highway, is more than 80% white and has a vaccination rate mirroring the parish. The 2 most impoverished tracts are also the least white, and their vaccination lags the parish by a few percentage points. Poverty in those tracts along the University Avenue corridor, south of Interstate 10, is more than 40%, or 4 times greater than the least vaccinated tract just north of Scott. LUS Fiber staffer tapped as director. The promotion comes at the end of a $32,000 national search by Claire Taylor, staff writer. After operating for nearly 3 years with an interim director, and following a nationwide search that cost about $32,000. Lafayette's fiber division found its new director at home. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Gilry announced via a news release Monday the appointment of Ryan Mesh as Lafayette Utility Systems Fiber Director, pending City Council approval of budget adjustments to fund the position. Mesh has been employed by LUS for 17 years, the last 9 in fiber operations. A Forbes magazine top 10 recruiting firm led a competitive nationwide search that attracted 7 applicants. 3 of the applications came from LUS Fiber employees. The other applicants were from Georgia, Iowa, Maryland, and Texas. LCG paid the firm linked executive search a $15,000 retainer, Jamie Angel, the LCG Chief Communications Officer, said Monday. Under the contract with the company, if the new director's salary is less than $200,000, LCG will pay the company 28% of the director's first year's salary minus the retainer. Angel did not know the new director's salary. Mesh replaces Caleb Brooks, who has served as interim director since October 2019. Her salary when she was promoted to that position was $117,300 a year. If the salary remains the same, 28% would be $32,844. Minus the $15,000 retainer, LCG may owe the firm approximately $17,844. Mesh has been serving as engineer manager of Lafayette Utility Systems Fiber Operations. He was a founding member of the team that designed and launched the LUS Fiber system and assisted in setting up the technology infrastructure and construction of the system, the release states. While employed at LCG, he also works as a consulting engineer for a broad range of municipally and publicly owned companies. Mesh took over as interim director Monday and will become the permanent director once the City Council votes to approve budget adjustments needed to fund the permanent position. LUS and the fiber system operated under a single director until 2018, when longtime LUS director Terry Huval retired after allegations came to light that operations were billing other LUS divisions for services not rendered. And then Mayor President Joe Robideau said he was removing fiber operations from Huval's oversight and cutting Huval's salary. Robideau appointed Jeff Stewart as interim LUS director and Tellis Freeman as interim cyber director in 2018, later replacing Stewart with Chief Administrative Officer Lowell Duyon and Freeman with Miles while conducting an internal investigation. In August, a forensic audit by Carr, Riggs, and Ingram CPAs of Metairie alleged Huval intentionally and unnecessarily billed LUS and subsequently its customers for connections and services to prop up fiber operations, possibly in violation of the Fair Competition Act, Public Service Commission rules, and other state laws. Gilry's administration forwarded the audit to the FBI. Former District Attorney Keith Stutes, meanwhile, found insufficient evidence to charge Huval with the crime, and in December, the Louisiana Public Service Commission closed its case on the matter. Faculty members win prestigious funding awards. Staff report. 3 University of Louisiana at Lafayette faculty members, Dr. Nicholas Coyers, Dr. James Nelson, and Dr. Moshen Amini Salih, earned one of the National Science Foundation's most prestigious award, the Career Award, which recognizes faculty members whose institutions rank them as assistant or entry-level professors and acknowledge their strength as researchers and teachers. Each of UL honorees are faculty members in the Ray P. Althamall College of Sciences, where Azmi S. Akala is dean. This is one of the most prestigious funding awards early career faculty can get. It shows the caliber of faculty we have in the College of Sciences. They are leaders in their respective disciplines, and their ideas make them competitive at the national level, Akali said. 5 College of Sciences faculty members are past career award recipients, but this is the first time multiple honors have come to the university in a single year, says Ramesh Kolru, Associate Provost and Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Economic Development. Past recipients were Xing Chen, 2018, Daniela Zhao, 2011, Mio Jin, 2009, Dimitri Perkins, 2005, and Hongyi Wu, 2004. With the addition of Dr. Kuyers, Nelson, and Salih to this roster of exceptional academic talent, our faculty members have now received the Career Award 8 times since 2004. That's undeniable evidence of the continued strength of our research mission and the dedicated faculty whose work animates it, Kolru said. Coyers and Nelson are assistant professors in the Department of Biology. Salihi is an assistant professor in the School of Computing and Informatics. Science Foundation grants to fund further research accompany each award. Coyers will receive $997,269 over 5 years to examine whether assisted migration, a process where better adapted populations of the species are introduced into other populations of the species that are doing poorly, can help counter the effects of climate change on a model plant species. Nelson's research on climate change effects on coastal marsh ecosystems will receive a $688,849 boost over 5 years. Amini will receive a $513,000 5-year grant. His research aims to enhance multimedia streaming beyond services such as YouTube and Netflix through developing a domain-specific cloud platform for multimedia streaming. The Science Foundation is an independent federal agency. It provides funds for nearly a quarter of all federally supported research American colleges and universities conduct. The foundation first presented the Career Award in 1995. A public service announcement. Reach a larger audience. Speak to your local community. Express your uncensored opinion on our free speech platform. A few of the many reasons to join AOC. Amplify your voice on our channels. Go to aocinc.org/submit. Need access to tools and equipment? Go to aocinc.org/join. You can also tag us when you share your programs on social media, and we'll help amplify your message by sharing on our platforms. At AOC Community Media on Facebook, at AOC INLFT on Twitter, and at AOC Community Media on Instagram. Find it all at aocinc.org. continued. UL volunteers show love to the community. Students take part in a day of service. By Katie Gagliano, staff writer. Gray-shirted Ragin' Cajuns fanned through campus and neighborhoods surrounding the University of Louisiana at Lafayette on Saturday for a big day of community service. Around 600 UL students, faculty, and alumni turned out to collect litter, plant trees, garden, and assist nonprofits, including the United Way of Acadiana and Second Harvest Food Bank, for the big event at UL. Saturday was UL's 8th big event. The service project came to campus in 2013, an offshoot of the longtime service project of the same name at Texas A&M University. The big event service events are now held annually at more than 100 university campuses in the United States and internationally per the Big Events website. History senior Trevian Ambrose, executive director of the big event at UL, said it was a rewarding challenge to adapt the popular event to fight COVID safety needs. The event's opening ceremony was canceled to support social distancing needs. Team leaders passed through a drive-through in the Martin Hall parking circle to collect needed supplies and check in before proceeding to their volunteer location, and teams, called flocks, were limited to 5 to 10 people, he said. While there were limitations, the changes didn't dampen the spirit of the day. Instead, the executive team and volunteers embraced the motto, volunteering where you're at, by encouraging students who are uncomfortable volunteering in person or unable to write thank you letters to healthcare workers operating COVID-19 vaccination clinics, which will be collected next week and distributed, Ambrose said. No matter what the day looks like, it's about showing gratitude to the community for supporting the university students and strengthening the campus, he said. The community and the university have a long history of being united, and this is a nice way to say thank you. UL is a foundation here in this region and in the state, and we truly wouldn't be our university without the support of our local communities, Ambrose said. Our one big event service project, the Grad, Gather, and Grow Garden at Cajun Village, was a request from graduate students and families living in the university's on-campus apartments for married students and students with children. Office of Sustainability Graduate Assistant Ian Knockamp said his department coordinated with the UL Graduate School to design the garden and make the project a reality with plans to expand in the future. Big event volunteers loaded wheelbarrows with compositive soil to fill 4 raised garden beds, which were planted with tomatoes, squash, and other vegetables, while an in-ground garden area was filled with flowers, herbs, and berry bushes like blueberries to serve as a butterfly garden, he said. The gardens will be a source of fresh food for residents. Communication master's student Prudence Meba, a representative with the graduate student organization, wiped sweat from her forehead as she used a bulb planter to dig a hole for the butterfly garden in a common area within the apartment complex. Meba said she enjoys volunteering, but has found it difficult to find service opportunities that fit with her graduate schedule, and was thrilled when she saw the big event promoted. The graduate student said Saturday was her first time gardening, and she was getting tips from fellow volunteers on how to best set the plants up for successful growth. Meba, an international student from Nigeria, said it felt special to add something beautiful to the campus that will last. It's great because I'm graduating soon, and it feels good to give back and know that whatever I'm doing is going to be here for a while. I'll go back home knowing something is going to outlive me here when I live, Meba said. Beth Giroir, Executive Director for Student Success Initiatives in the Office of First Year Experience, said Saturday was exciting because it was one of the first opportunities to host a large event on campus this school year and see students in person. Participating in UL's big event shows students the power of working as a team to make positive changes, she said. Everything's bigger than a single person, and to know there's something grander beyond you is important. That's going to be part of their success someday, to understand that we need each other and we need to be able to be together and work together. And that's all part of something bigger than them, Giroir said. Instilling the importance of service and philanthropy is just as much a part of the UL learning experience as academic pursuits, she said. We know some come in service-minded, but for a lot of students, this is their first time doing service. We want them to know that being a good citizen, you've got to do service. Hopefully, when they leave here and graduate, they continue to be service-minded and continue to give back to their community wherever they're at, Giroir said. In court news, a suit against the diocese can proceed. A woman claims she was sexually abused by a priest. Staff and KATC TV reports. A state appeals court has ruled that discovery will proceed in a lawsuit filed by an Acadiana woman over former Monsignor Roby Robichaud. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the Diocese of Lafayette must answer some of the questions and produce some of the documents requested by the plaintiff in the lawsuit filed almost a year ago, KATC reported. The appeals judge's ruling mirrored what the trial judge said during the hearing, which was that the diocese must produce the evidence related to the issue of prescription. In Louisiana, lawsuits generally must be filed within a year of the date the alleged injury occurred. There are different rules for victims of sexual abuse. In this case, the diocese says the plaintiff's case doesn't meet those rules. During an earlier hearing, 50th Judicial District Judge David Smith ordered the diocese to produce all evidence related to that issue. The appeals court ruled the same thing, but specifically stated which interrogatories and document requests had to be answered. Those appear to be the questions and requests specifically related to the plaintiff's case and to the details of Robichaud's time with the church. The suit, filed by a woman identified only as T.M. Doe, alleges that she was sexually abused by Robichaud when she was a teenager seeking counsel, and he was the priest at St. Peter's in New Iberia. The sexual contact occurred sometime between 1975 and 1985, when the victim was 16 or 17 years old, according to a statement from the diocese. The statement does not say how many times the sexual contact occurred, nor provide any description of the contact. The allegation was first made in 1994, and in 2004, the victim requested in a notarized statement that Robichaud be removed from the ministry based on church policies adopted in 2002. Bishop Douglas Desatel said in 2018, bishops adopted the policies that year in response to clergy sex abuse cases nationwide. In 2018, Robichaud was placed on leave. At that time, he was listed as head of the Diocesan Marriage Tribunal, a church court, and as chancellor on the website of St. Leo Seton Catholic School in Lafayette. The lawsuit accuses the church of negligence, fraudulent concealment, and of creating a public nuisance by shielding abusive priests. The church's position is that the lawsuit is valid because it should have been filed within a year of the alleged damage. so it shouldn't have to answer the discovery. In addition, the church's attorney also said the discovery questions were too broad and not limited to the victim's case and excessive. Elementary and middle school days to be expended. Staff report. The elementary and middle school students in Lafayette Parish Public School System will spend an extra 5 minutes in class starting April 6th. The extension is to make up instruction time lost to weather-related closures during the year, Allison Dickerson, Public Information Officer, said in the news release. State guidelines require students to receive 63,720 instructional hours per academic year. The extra 5 minutes will be added to the end of each school day, Dickerson said. Dismissal and afternoon bus routes will be adjusted accordingly. The change does not apply to the David Thibodeau STEM Magnet Academy or high schools because they have additional instructional minutes already built into their schedules. Early college academy families will be notified internally about their revised schedule. Today in History by the Associated Press. Today is Tuesday, March 30th, the 89th day of 2021. There are 276 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on March 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot and seriously injured outside a Washington, D.C. hotel by John W. Hinckley Jr. Also wounded were White House Press Secretary James Brady, Secret Service agent Timothy McCarthy, and a District of Columbia police officer, Thomas Delhanty. On this date, in 1822, Florida became a United States territory. In 1842, Dr. Crawford W. Long of Jefferson, Georgia, first used ether as an anesthetic during an operation to remove a patient's neck tumor. In 1867, U.S. Secretary of State William H. Seward reached agreement with Russia to purchase the territory of Alaska for $7.2 million, a deal ridiculed by critics as Seward's folly. In 1870, the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which prohibited denying citizens the right to vote and hold office on the basis of race, was declared in effect by Secretary of State Hamilton Fish. In 1975, as the Vietnam War neared its end, communist forces occupied the city of Da Nang. In 1999, Yugoslav leader Slobodan Milosevic insisted that NATO attacks stop before he moved toward peace, declaring his forces ready to fight to the very end. NATO answered with new resolve to wreck his military with a relentless air assault. In 2004, in a reversal, President George W. Bush agreed to let National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice testify publicly and under oath before an independent panel investigating the 9/11 terrorist attacks. In 2006, American reporter Jill Carroll, freelancer for the Christian Science Monitor, was released after 82 days as a hostage in Iraq. In 2009, President Barack Obama asserted unprecedented government control over the auto industry, rejecting turnaround plans from General Motors and Chrysler, and raising the prospect of controlled bankruptcy for either ailing auto giant. In 2010, President Barack Obama signed a single measure, sealing his health care overhaul and making the government the primary lender to students by cutting banks out of the process. 10 years ago, Tilikum, the killer whale that had drowned trainer Dawn Braccio in 2010 at SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida, resumed performing for the first time since the woman's death. 5 years ago, President Barack Obama commuted the prison sentences of 61 drug offenders, including more than a third serving life sentences. 1 year ago, Florida authorities arrested a megachurch pastor after they said he held 2 Sunday services with hundreds in attendance in violation of coronavirus restrictions. The charges were later dropped. A Navy hospital ship arrived in New York City to help relieve the coronavirus crisis gripping the city's hospital. President Donald Trump said a week later that he would allow coronavirus patients to be treated aboard the ship, in addition to patients who did not have the virus. Today's birthdays. Game show host Peter Marshall is 95. Actor John Austin is 91. Actor-director Warren Beatty is 84. Rock musician Graham Edge of the Moody Blues is 80. Rock musician Eric Clapton is 76. Actor Justin Diaz is 73. Actor Paul Reiser is 65. Rap artist MC Hammer is 59. Singer Tracy Chapman is 57. Actor Ian Ziering is 57. TV personalities Piers Morgan is 56. Rock musician Joey Castillo is 55. Actress Donna Del Rico is 55. Singer Celine Dion is 53. TV personality producer Richard Rawlings is 52. Actor Mark Consuelos is 50. Actor Behar Somki is 46. Actress Jessica Caulfield is 45. Singer Norah Jones is 42. Actress Fiona Gubelman is 41. And actor Katie Mixon is 40. Today's Zodiac. Aries, March 21st to April 19th. Question everything that doesn't feel right. Don't put up with situations that drag you down or stop you from doing what's best for you. Taurus, April 20th to May 20th. Beware of anyone who doesn't appear to have a plan. Use your ingenuity, physical ability, and determination to overcome any obstacle you face. Gemini, May 21st to June 20th. Hard work will lead to an excellent opportunity. Refuse to let someone step in and take charge. Distance yourself from anyone who is unstable, misleading, or intrusive. Cancer, June 21st to July 22nd. Follow your intuition when it comes to dealing with situations that may affect your health and well-being. Use common sense and show discipline when faced with temptation. Leo, July 23rd to August 22nd. Take a moment to rethink your next move. Don't act under emotional duress. Personal improvement will lift your spirits and encourage a healthier lifestyle. Be aware of what's going on around you. Virgo, August 23rd to September 22nd. A change someone makes will tempt you to head in the same direction. Consider what will happen if you fail to follow your dreams. Do what's best for you for the most satisfying results. Libra, September 23rd to October 23rd. Consider every angle. Make sure you have the necessary knowledge, technology, and money to finish what you start. Preparation will be the key to getting ahead. Scorpio, October 24th to November 22nd. You'll be up and down like a yo-yo if you let someone dictate what you can do or say. Speak up, make yourself clear, and follow your heart. You have plenty to offer and you can make a difference. Sagittarius, November 23rd to December 21st. Consider how to get ahead or move forward financially. Don't rely on someone to do your bidding. Stick to what you know and do best. Capricorn, December 22nd to January 19th. Don't lose sight of your goals and objectives. Take better care of your health and nourish your relationship with friends, relatives, and peers. Keep the peace and be diligent regarding money matters. Aquarius, January 20th to February 19th. Consider your budget before you buy something you don't need. Personal improvements don't have to cost money. Start with physical fitness routine and a healthy diet. Pisces, February 20th to March 20th. You'll have plenty of ideas, but not all will be financially sound. Do your best to make a difference. Improve your life and the lives of loved ones. Avoid getting into pointless arguments. The horoscope is an entertainment feature and is not based on scientific fact. In state news, the COVID-19 coronavirus, the latest. New COVID rules expected. The governor is to announce changes, and Biden is urging caution, by Blake Patterson, staff writer. After months of steady improvements and declining hospitalizations, Louisiana's fight against COVID-19 has stalled in recent weeks, leading some public health officials to worry that the state could be teetering on the edge of another deadly spike in coronavirus infections. Though cases haven't yet shown signs of ticking upward in Louisiana, trend lines nationally have set off alarm bells from federal health officials. On Monday, the head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, said she felt the impending doom of a fourth surge, and President Joe Biden cautioned public officials against lifting restrictions. The warnings come ahead of a Tuesday news conference during which Governor John Bel Edwards is expected to update the state's coronavirus rules. The previous order, which loosened restrictions on live music and inside capacity at bars, expires Wednesday. The decision on whether to further loosen restrictions comes at a particularly precarious moment in the year-long pandemic. Countless young people are returning home from spring break festivities, and Easter gatherings are just around the corner. That combination could reignite infection, said Susan Hassig, an associate professor of epidemiology at Tulane University. A fair number of people who went to the beaches are going to be bringing home something other than a sunburn and a hangover, Hassig said. Louisiana doesn't have virus impenetrable borders around it. As long as cases are trending upward in the United States, we're going to be vulnerable. Meanwhile, testing for the coronavirus in Louisiana has plummeted since February, when an icy winter storm closed down roadways and cut off power. There were roughly 85,000 tests completed over the past week, a fraction of the 147,000 tests administered the week before the storm. That made it more difficult to determine how much the virus is spreading. The number of coronavirus patients in Louisiana hospitals has steadily declined since the state reported a pandemic high of 2,069 patients on January 7th, following a deadly post-holiday surge in cases. At Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center in Baton Rouge, The number of coronavirus hospitalizations dropped last week to the mid-20s before bumping slightly over the weekend. We're on the precipice of going either way, Dr. Catherine O'Neill, the hospital's chief medical officer, said. If we continue to do well with masking and distancing, vaccinations, we could really be in a good spot. If we stall and don't continue to vaccinate heavily and do high-risk things, we're going to have a big surge. She warned that without immediate action, the U.S. could follow European countries into another spike in cases and suffer needless deaths. Later Monday, Biden addressed the nation from the White House declaring, if we let our guard down now, we can see the virus getting worse, not better. People are letting up on precautions, which is a very bad thing. Please, this is not politics. Reinstate the mandate if you let it down. The Associated Press contributed to this story. GOP leaders are at odds over Louisiana's open primaries, some pushing for a closed system. As the state legislature prepares to debate whether to change Louisiana's unique open primary election system and move to closed party primaries, a public disagreement among some of the state's top Republican officials has emerged over the question. Attorney General Jeff Landry, State Senator Sharon Hewitt, and U.S. Representative Steve Scalise are among those spearheading the effort to move to closed primaries, in which Democrats and Republicans would hold separate contests to decide who each party would send to a general election. The move is backed by Republican activists who believe closing the primaries will lead to a more ideological conservative winning office. It's also supported by some Democrats who want their party's registered voters to have the last word in choosing Democratic candidates. But Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, along with several other more moderate Republicans, oppose the move. Among them are U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy and U.S. Representative Garrett Graves, both of whom recently came out against the effort. After months of work, a task force chaired by Hewitt voted Monday to send a slate of recommendations to the legislature ahead of the upcoming session. Chief among those, closed the primary election for congressional races. The resolution did not include a proposal to move other statewide elections, like the governor's race, to close primaries. Either way, the legislature and governor will have to agree on legislation to change the system and could still decide to move closed party primaries for elections like the governor's contest. Still, a split between some of those considered potential contenders for governor in 2023 was evident. Landry, Nungesser, and Hewitt are all possible candidates for the seat. Nungesser, who is considered one of the more moderate Republican candidates for governor, testified against the move. He said, if something is not broke, don't fix it. What we need is a strong Republican Party that stands on its own 2 feet, that doesn't allow its candidates to lie about their opponents to win elections, he said, referencing the last 2 gubernatorial elections, where Republicans hammered each other in the primary and lost to Democrat John Bel Edwards in the runoff. It's all about representing all of Louisiana, not just Republicans. It's about electing the best person. Hewitt said she wants to make the change for congressional elections only in order to walk before we run. While the state moved to close primaries for congressional races briefly in the mid-2000s, Hewitt said the change this time would differ from that because it wouldn't require a candidate to win a majority in the primary, which can lead to primary runoffs. Instead, the leading candidate would advance. Landry, who is in his second term as Attorney General, indicated he wanted the task force to recommend moving state elections, not only congressional contests, to close primaries, but the task force ultimately limited it to federal races. Charles Buckles, a longtime Republican activist, said he believes moving to close primaries will lead to more candidates running on ideology. I've heard from a lot of voters that have said our elections have morphed many times, not into ideology, but into personalities, he said. The effort to close Louisiana's primaries gained steam recently when Cassidy voted to convict former President Donald Trump on charges of incitement of insurrection, which infuriated Trump voters in Louisiana. The LA GOP Executive Committee censored Cassidy over the vote, and some activists pointed to the closed primaries as a way to box candidates like Cassidy out of office. In a media briefing last month, Cassidy said, "Do you want a candidate who can win a general election or one who can only win a primary?" Graves, in a recent interview, suggested closed primaries would lead to candidates ostracizing people they represent. You're asking me if I think it makes sense to limit the candidates that somebody can vote for. That sounds entirely un-American to me, he said. I think people should be able to vote for anyone in the world they want to vote for. If lawmakers decide to make the change, they will need to work out key details like who should be allowed to vote in the primaries. The task force suggested letting parties decide who votes in the primary. Most states have some form of partisan primaries, but differ widely on who is allowed to vote in which contests, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. Louisiana's open primaries, sometimes called jungle primaries, are somewhat similar to top two primaries in California and Washington. Currently, all elections in Louisiana feature every candidate, regardless of party, on the same ballot in the primary. If no candidate wins more than 50%, the top two vote getters advance to a runoff. Under the recommendations made to the legislature, the congressional elections would move to a system in which Republicans and Democrats hold their own primaries, with each advancing their leading candidate to a general election. Scalise said his aim is merely to move away from the current timing of Louisiana elections, when new members of Congress are typically sent to Washington in December, months after representatives from other states. Currently, incumbent members of Congress often win outright in the November primary, but courts have said states can elect their members of Congress before November. That's why the elections can't be moved up without changing the election system itself. And it's only Republicans who want to change. State Senator Cleo Fields, a Democrat from Baton Rouge, who was in Congress in the mid-1990s, echoed Scalise's sentiment. I respect the intelligence of the voters, Fields said. In sports, Cajuns running back Mitchell wows at UL Pro Day by Kevin Foote, staff writer. By all accounts, former UL running back Elijah Mitchell made a lot of money at Monday's UL Pro Day. With 28 of 32 NFL teams represented at the Montclair Indoor Facility, the former ERAF High standout ran a reported 4.38 on the low side and 4.32 on the high side. Somewhere in that range, Mitchell said. Either way, it was better than any of the running backs in last year's NFL Combine. Remember, UL's own Raymond Calais ran the third fastest time in Indianapolis last year with a 4.42, just behind Appalachian State Darrington Evans at 4.41, while Wisconsin's Jonathan Taylor posted the fastest time at 4.39. Really, my plan was to run a 4.4, to be in the 4.4s, Mitchell said. I just kept speaking the 4.3s into existence. I'm just proud. Since finishing out his college career with the Cajuns, Mitchell has been training at the Michael Johnson Performance Center in McKinney, Texas. They prepared me and I was ready to go, Mitchell said. I was eating good and it leaned me and dropped me down a bit. Mitchell said he was measured at 5'10" and 201 pounds at Monday's event. To go out today and post these types of numbers, you look at the NFL Combine from the last couple of years, these are top three in the entire Combine at that position, UL coach Billy Napier said. This day and this production would be a national news event if Eli was at the NFL Combine today. These are elite numbers for this position. Certainly a lot of oohs and ahs in the indoor facility today as he continued to impress. The pro day was closed to the media, but Mitchell's release numbers were 6.87 in the 3-cone, 4.32 in the 40, 17 benches, 10-8 broad jump, a 37.5 vertical, and a 4.118 in the 20-yard shuttle. You look at the broad, the vertical, you look at the 40, the 3-cone. These are some top numbers at running back positions in the last 3, 4, 5 years, Napier said. Very impressive and does not surprise me one bit. I think we all know how special Eli Mitchell is. He has a bright future. During his college career, Mitchell rushed for 3,267 yards and 41 touchdowns on 527 carries, while catching 49 passes for 597 yards and 5 touchdowns. Without an NFL combine this year, Mitchell's number will likely echo around the league. Not just one NFL team, but every team was out there was very impressed with what they saw, said Napier, who added that he heard Kenyon Drake mentioned most often as the NFL comparison among the scouts. Elite numbers, that's the only way I can describe it. One of the best pro days in the entire country for a running back in the last 5 years, I would say. Also participating in this year's UL Pro Day was backfield teammate Trey Ragas, linebacker Joe Dillon, and a group of seniors from the 2019 club that didn't get the opportunity to compete in last year's Pro Day activities due to the coronavirus pandemic. Ragas posted the following numbers: 7.1 in the 3-cone, 4.68 in the 40, 23 benches, 9.9 broad, 33.5 vertical, and a 4.40 in the 20-yard shuttle. I did pretty good, Ragas said. I felt good about everything. There's certain things I wish I could have done a little better, but for the most part, I think I had a great day. Ragas rushed for 3,572 yards and 38 touchdowns on 596 carries during his career at UL, in addition to 49 receptions for 427 yards and 5 more scores. Ragas has been training in Florida. With Pro Day behind him, the New Orleans native, is switching his focus back to football with the NFL draft 4 weeks away. Just getting in football shape, Ragas said. No more 40s, no more shuttles, no more verticals. It's straight football and just getting back into conditioning for camp. I'd like to get drafted, that's for sure. Whatever opportunity I do get, I'm going to take advantage of it. Unfortunately, the news wasn't as good for all former UL players. Linebacker Joe Dillon suffered an injury to halt some of his drills in front of pro scouts. Joe did a really good job early, Napier said. Joe injured his hamstring today, and our thoughts and prayers are with him. It was a very tough experience, as you guys can imagine, and one that Joe will overcome with no question. His body of works speak for itself. I think the big thing there is that we got Joe healthy. When he does get his opportunity, he needs to prepare for that. Funerals today in the Acadiana area. Laura Cantor, St. Edmund Roman Catholic Church in Lafayette at 1:30 p.m. Euleen Dunbar, Skip Monte Chapel at La Fawn Ardouin Funeral Home in Opelousas at 1:30 p.m. Peggy Perrette at St. Mary's Catholic Church on Doucet Road at 3:30 p.m. Marilyn Robin at the Evangeline Memorial Gardens Chapel in Carencro at 2 p.m. This has been Local News Live for March 30th, 2021. I've been your reader, Robert Brichard. Join us at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Have a good day.